Hey, this is Tiger Slash the Second, and this right here is my new Warhammer 40,000 army. Dark Eldar were actually the first army I played. I remember walking into the game store and going up to the clerk and being like, you know what? I've never played Warhammer. I don't know anything about it. My friend's getting me into it, and I'd like to pick an army so I can play with him. He's like, I could sit here for 4 hours and tell you, the ins and outs of the game, all the strengths and weaknesses of every army, but when it comes right down to it, just pick the army that looks the coolest because you're going to be staring at it for hours before you ever get to play with it. So I looked over the selection they had, and I picked up Dark Eldar. What was it? The army box they had, with the Raider and the 10 Warriors and the 10 Witches. And I pulled that off the shelf. I was like, this looks like the coolest army to me. He slaps me on the shoulder and says, I'm sorry. I hope you have fun. That has been my experience with Dark Eldar. It's a whole bunch of I'm sorries and I hope you have fun losings. That's the missing word, losing. And I've always been one of those people who, if presented with a challenge, will pretty much pursue every avenue until they either find a solution or are satisfied that there's not really a solution and then just give up. Dark Eldar, I was leaning towards giving up, but let me go into that story. So I've brought Dark Eldar lists to tournaments, and I've done pretty poorly, as one would expect. The competitive scene around here for 40K is actually pretty broad. I'm 2 hours out from Northern Virginia, so there's a very active ITC and Nova circuit. This event we were going to was actually being held in Northern Virginia, and I went up there because I was going to meet my main man Sal at the hobby shop, and he was going to bring me. I call him the Warhammer broker because he literally brokers Warhammer. He was selling this army for some guy who lives in Philadelphia and just doesn't want to play Dark Eldar anymore. And these are fairly decently built dudes. They're decently painted. And I asked him why he was trying to get out of it, and he was just, he's just tired of the army, I guess, or something like that. He runs a hobby shop, so he's got all sorts of armies, and he's just getting rid of his Dark Eldar. And I was like, yeah, I can kind of understand why, because at this point, I'd come in just about last place, or close to last place, never quite smoking boots, in just about every tournament that I competed in. And I was like, you know what? Let's see what happens at this tournament, because I was looking at the army, I was thinking about the price tag, and I was like, well, let's see, because I wanted to eyeball it first before I actually purchased the thing. So I show up there, and the first thing that happens is I get out, and I meet my friend, Bonfiglio. And Bonfiglio and his two comrades in Warhammer Arms are just standing around talking, waiting for the shop to open up. And they're like, oh, what kind of list did you bring? I said, Dark Eldar. And they're like, so you're saying Dark Eldar taxi service, right? And I'm like, no, I was assuming that the FAQ had, when it dropped, that was being treated as gospel by the circuit, but apparently not. So I didn't even bother to try to bring Eldar. I just brought a straight Dark Eldar list. And they're like, well, that's really unusual. I haven't seen a Dark Eldar list in a long, long time, which is sort of a roundabout nice way of saying you're going to get your teeth kicked in. What the hell are you doing driving 2.5 hours to go play Warhammer and get your ass handed to you? And I just was sort of smiling and nodding, and honestly, it got me down a bit. It got me down about my own army. It got me down about the hobby in general, because at that point it felt like I'd chosen wrong. Well, we got into the tournament, and pretty much everyone else's reaction was the same thing. It's, you're bringing Dark Eldar to a tournament? You realize we're using the Wolfen book, right? So I had my first round, and I was playing against some sort of Demonkin some sort of demon nonsense from the Wolfen book involving corn dogs and screamers, and I lost, but not handily. I lost by a little bit, and I tied against Grey Knights in the second round. And in the last round, I won against Necrons, and I think I had a pretty decent spread. In fact, I came in precisely middle of the pack. Like, that was the best I'd ever done in a tournament, and I did it without bringing Eldar allies. I did it without, any kind of cheese or anything like that. And so afterwards, I went out and said, yeah, I'd like to buy this army that this guy is getting rid of, because this army that apparently he's just, he's not interested anymore, or maybe he's just disillusioned with the rules or something like that. I can make it work for me. When I asked Sal for an explanation, his basically like, well, he just doesn't play it anymore, and that's something I've noticed, and it's not something that people make a conscious decision of. I think it's just something that they inherently do because they're just sick and tired of losing. People have, like, I know a Dark Eldar player. He's switched to Skitarii. He still likes Dark Eldar, but he sold me something to the order of 30 models for $25 because he just doesn't play him anymore. I know a guy who plays a lot of Inquisition and Grey Knights because he doesn't like playing his orcs anymore. And I think that's a real shame. We need to encourage more orc players. But I can understand why, especially after the FAQ hit, but even before, orcs really couldn't hold a candle to most of the armies, and Dark Eldar are in the same boat. I like to play with a group of people that run fluffy lists or friendly lists. They show up to the hobby shop, they want to get a few games in. It's almost never 1850 unless someone explicitly asks to play a tournament list, in which case, they'll drag out the Riptides and everything else, but usually it's fairly normal lists. And the problem is when you're playing a gimped army like Chaos Space Marines, like Dark Eldar, like Orcs, there is no casual list that you actually stand a chance of winning with. I can't run a fluffy witch cult list and not get blown off the table by someone just pulling a Grey Knights or even just a regular Space Marines army list out of thin air. Sit down, put 1,500 points together, slap it on the table. It's gonna beat a witch cult list almost every time. I think it's sad when people get disillusioned with an army that they like. I think it affects how much they enjoy the hobby when the army that they enjoy painting and customizing and just working on and playing with, just the rules can be a lot of fun. It gets like mentally exhausting after the fourth or fifth time in a row of losing. I'd like to try and give some people some ideas as to what kind of stuff they might be able to do with this army, because I don't know. I've really grown to love the Dark Eldar army. I love its fluff. I love the models, especially. I think they look absolutely gorgeous. I just like playing it. They're a fun army to play. When everything goes right, it clicks. But I've noticed something, that when a Dark Eldar player wins, or not even when they win, when a Dark Eldar player puts up a good fight, people will start to take it personally. The first guy I played against, for instance, at this tournament, just completely shut down by turn 3 because he launched 4 units of corn dogs at 4 units of grotesques, and then suddenly there weren't corn dogs anymore, and he didn't understand why. And it takes people by surprise when a Dark Eldar player actually comes out of the gate strong. And the same is true of things like Grey Knights. The same is true of Orcs and Blood Angels and all these other armies that people just think, oh well, I'm fighting Blood Angels, I have a bye. This turn is a bye pretty much. So for this specific army, I would like to try and discuss some tactics, talk about units in depth, and give people some ideas. I don't know what the best strategies are for this army, but I'd like to discuss what I've done with these units, what I found works for me, and maybe give people some ideas. We could see some really interesting lists maybe coming around, and maybe they'll actually show up in the tournament circuit some more. I can't say I've ever faced another Dark Eldar player before. Some other things I'd like to do are talk about strategies that I've had work for me, allies that I've taken with the army that seem to have a good coherency there. There's a good synergy with certain armies, some you wouldn't expect. But most of all, I hope I give people a chance to enjoy the armies that they like. I know so many Orcs players who just love playing Orcs because they love to screw around with the models. They love to, make battle wagons out of pieces of plastic card and, a Tonka truck and stuff like that. And it's really, that's a huge part of the hobby for me, is that creative aspect. And I know it gets disheartening when you show up with this really highly customized army that you spent so much time working on and it just gets blown off the table before you can even set the cool models down. That's just not fun, and it's not like it's at the point now, there's such a disparity between the armies in some cases that someone doesn't even have to be bringing, a seal clubber list. They could just be bringing something that they threw together, and it would still be enough to take some of these lower tier armies and just knock them off the board without even trying. And that's not fun. And also, people shouldn't be expected to put on kids' gloves when they're going against certain armies. It should be a friendly competition, So maybe by going over a few of these things, I'm hoping that some people will get some good ideas out of it. They'll try new strategies. They'll find something that works for them. They'll find something they like, or maybe they'll see my videos and they'll think of something new, something that I haven't thought of, something that hasn't not been done a lot, that's not very popular. So until next time, I will see you later.